Ch1. At the beginning of the chapter we see a young John Constantien, who was sitting in his room and playing guitar. John thinks to himself that music gives people the opportunity to tell others what they want to say, things that people don't have the guts to say out loud. Those things can be said through songs. In his mind, John says that he is much better at writing songs than fighting demons and spirits, but according to his best friend Veronica, that means nothing. He further says that she doesn't understand. A good defense is always a better offense, and unlike other people, he has the strategies that he follows. He has spent years making this strategy. He says that the best way to avoid disappointment is to not allow oneself to want more. If he is worried about failing, all he had to do was to not try doing something in the first place. If he doesn't want to get hurt, all he has to do is not let anyone in his life. While thinking this, he was looking at a piece of paper with Liam's name and his number on it. John tosses that paper to the side, but soon he gets a call. He picks up the phone and sees that it was his father, Thomas Constantien, who was calling him. He thinks in his mind that avoiding someone includes his father. John only saw his father a couple of times when he was young. John picks up the phone and directly asks his father what he needs. His father says to him that was this the way someone answers the phone when he gets a call. He then says to John that he was about to conjure a very powerful spell with his friends and they might need his help for this, so tells him to come to the pub. He says to John that this will be a good thing. Father and son will be conjuring spells together. He further says to John that he had magic in his blood. While listening to him, John takes out a box from his wardrobe and opens it. This box contains pictures of John and his father and some other things from John's childhood. John thinks in his mind that his father suddenly calling him out of nowhere and showing interest in him was something new. He says that a part of his soul wants to believe that his father has changed, but what are the odds of something like that happening? So John turns down his father's invitation by saying that he has something to do tonight. Then John goes down to the kitchen, where he sees his mother and his stepfather Roderick. John tells us that his mother married Roderick about a year ago, and like John's father, Roderick was also a very powerful and well-known magician. Because of this, John doesn't trust Roderick like he doesn't trust his father. John's mother says to John that he was just in time for dinner. She tells him that tonight Roderick cooked them mince and potatoes. John looks at her and says that he was not feeling hungry, but his mother holds his arms and says to him that he can just sit with them while they eat. During the dinner, Roderick says that today he called Lady Marguerite Delphine, who was living in the States, to talk to her about some society business. He further says that she was looking forward to taking in an apprentice. John's mother says to him that Roderick told Lady Marguerite that John was taking off a year from his university studies, and he had free time. John thinks that a year off from studies doesn't mean that he was going to get free from learning magic, and this means that he has to learn magic from a high magician from Roderick's society. So he apologizes to his mother and says that he was not interested in this offer. Roderick says that he just thought that John would be interested, but John cuts his talk and says that he was not and that Roderick thought wrong. John's mother looks at him, and John thinks that he hates disappointing his mother, but he still has to do it, and that by now his mother would have gotten used to this. He apologizes to his mother and leaves. John's mother chases behind him and tells him to stop. When they get outside the house, John says to his mother that he doesn't want Roderick's help and says that he was not his father. John's mother tells him that Roderick was nothing like his father. John thinks in his mind that Roderick and his father both are the most powerful magicians in the world, and they both have fallen in love with his mother. John's mother says to him that he has so much talent in magic, and if he studies magic under the teaching of a magician who is as powerful as Lady Marguerite, he will have a bright future. But John doesn't want that, so he says to his mother that whatever he needs to study about magic, he will do it on his own. Then he kisses his mother's cheeks and tells her that he loves her and he will be late tonight. John goes to a train station where he sees a girl. John goes to her and stands right next to her. He says in his mind that flirting was an art in which one has to show the other person what they want to see, not what was there. He asks the girl about her day, and the girl replies that it was good and asks how was John's day going. John flirts with her and says that depends on the fact that whether she gives him her number or not. Girls laugh and say to John that he must have used this line before on another girl. John says that at least she was the first one today. That girl writes her number on a piece of paper and gives it to John. John takes it and gets on the train and says to the girl that he will call her later. On the train, two young boys were making a fuss, and their mother was telling them to stop it. But they were not listening to her. John sees it and he gets off of his seat and goes towards them. Here John says in his mind that street magic and sleight of hand are not much different than flirting. In both cases, one just has to show other people what they want to see, not what was going on. He further says that real magic is showing people what you want them to see. In this process, John performs a trick in which he shows the boys a coin and then the coin vanishes. In reality, it was on the backside of John's hand. After getting off the train, John goes outside at the station where he thinks in his mind that many people are born without having any magical powers, and they also don't know that real magic exists. He says that he feels sorry for those people. At that moment, John gets a call from his best friend Veronica. John asks her how are things going on in the US for her, to which Veronica says to him that it was boring, and that was the reason that she made this call. Ch2, John talks to Veronica and says that was because she was missing her handsome friend, on which Veronica says to John that has anyone told him that he was arrogant. John says that not today. She then says to John that he should accept Roderick's proposal. John asks her why should he do that. She tells him that her band lost their lead singer and she wants John to come and be a part of her band. So he should say yes to Roderick, and by using that opportunity, he should come and be a part of their band. The next day, John's mother comes to him and says that Roderick was not like his father, he cares for him. John thinks for a bit and then says that he is willing to learn magic from Lady Marguerite. Then 3 days later, John and his family were at the airport, where Roderick says to him that he has informed Lady Marguerite about John's arrival, and John's mother tells him to contact her when Veronica picks her up. After arriving at Virginia Airport, John meets with Veronica, who at once hugs him. She says to John that all the boys will be jealous as they will think that John is her boyfriend. John messes around with her a little and then they both get into a taxi. On the way, Veronica tells John that her roommate loved magic but he was a total weirdo. John thinks in his mind and says that Veronica had suffered much more than him, and if he compares her parents with his father can be called the father of the year. When they arrive at Veronica's place, her roommate was busy listening to music. She goes to him and tells him that they have come back. He tells John that his name was Christian Slaughter, but everyone calls him Slaughter. John tells him his name and Slaughter says to him that he has heard that John was a magician and asks him to teach him some tricks. John says that it was not like what he was thinking. Slaughter laughs and says that he was only joking with him. Then he leaves after saying that another band needed his help, so he has to go. In the night, Veronica talks to John and asks him if he wants to start rehearsal in the morning. John says that he has to meet Lady Marguerite tomorrow, but he can change the appointment because it was not like he wants to train with her or anything. Veronica tells him that he should at least meet her before making this decision. She says that she will do anything to get a good teacher who will teach her magic. John jokes around and says that he just got here and Veronica was trying to get rid of him already. Veronica says that she was talking about at the end of summer, not now. She says that she wants John's help, but at the same time she doesn't want him to miss out on this opportunity. Then John and Veronica share the same bed that night, and in the morning when John wakes up, he doesn't see Veronica, so he calls her. She replies by saying that she was in the kitchen. John looks at his phone and sees that it was already past 11. He jumps out of the bed and rushes to the kitchen. Veronica looks at him and asks him what was the matter. John says that he was late. Veronica laughs and says that before he didn't care about meeting the magician. John says that he still doesn't care, but he has made a promise to his mother that he will meet Lady Marguerite. Veronica says to join if anyone told him that he was confusing. John smiles and says not today. And that's all for today, guys. Stay tuned to get more new videos. Stay safe and keep watching.